Mr. President, last month, America watched in horror as federal immigration officers shot and killed in two separate incidents U.S. citizens as part of the Trump administration's immigration enforcement operations in Minneapolis. Renee Good and Alex Preddy should still be with us today. Remember why we went there? The stated purpose, according to the Trump administration, was very clear and understandable. We were going after the rapists, murderers, terrorists, child predators, and criminally insane who had come across the border illegally during the Biden administration. They were to be found and removed and held accountable for their conduct. No matter where you were on the political spectrum, that mission sounded sensible. Why would we ever allow those dangerous people in this country, whether by accident or intention? And why wouldn't we do everything we could to remove them? The president promised he was going after the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. And so two people in Minneapolis lost their lives. Were they the worst of the worst? Renee Good, mother of three, and Alex Preddy, a nurse at the VA hospital in Minneapolis, an extraordinary person as we come to know. American citizens both, neither one of them fit the categories that the president railed against during his rallies and campaign. Instead, these two innocent people were taken from their families and their communities far too soon in instances of senseless violence at the hands of the United States government. Donald Trump's immigration enforcement operations have not restored the so-called law and order that he promised and have not targeted the worst of the worst. They've done exactly the opposite. In every place the Department of Homeland Security's roving squads have descended, whether Chicago, Minneapolis, or any other city, they have brought chaos, disorder, and fear. These operations have created a public safety crisis, with families terrified to leave their homes. I've seen it firsthand in Chicago. I go to the Hispanic areas of that great city, and the people live in fear. They're afraid to leave their homes. Parents and school administrators struggling to explain ICE attacks to children, and Americans desperately trying to protect their neighbors. The American people support orderly immigration enforcement that removes violent criminals from our streets. But how we do it matters. Indiscriminate, violent roundup of American citizens, legal residents, people with no criminal record, erodes civil liberties and threatens the rule of law. The American people have seen this play out with their own eyes, and they've had enough. This is the time to rein in this lawlessness, now. Congress has 2 weeks to act. With the support of the American people, Senate Democrats stood firm and made clear we would not provide the votes to increase funding for the administration's illegal terror campaign. I'm pleased to say that last Friday night, the Senate passed 5 remaining bipartisan appropriation bills, and all the bills together that we passed fund 96% of the federal government. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, we will continue to negotiate with the White House and Republicans to deliver much-needed reforms to the DHS appropriations bill and to rein in the illegal excesses of ICE. As part of those negotiations, Democrats stand strong for the following common-sense measures. First, federal immigration agents need to remove their masks, turn on their body cameras, and wear visible, clear identification. I've met with law enforcement officials, people who've given their lives to it, career people, and asked them, why do you need to be masked? Why do you need to have secret police in the United States of America? They said you don't. And unfortunately, it undermines public confidence in law enforcement across the board. To allow these masks and to not require carrying video cameras is to invite the problems which we've already witnessed. ICE is not a secret police force. It wasn't meant to be, despite what President Trump may wish. Second, we need to end the roving patrols. ICE does not have free will to do as they please. This is a nation of laws guided by the Constitution that everyone, including ICE, must abide by. This means that federal immigration officials must stop racial profiling and random arrest. You've seen the videotapes, and I have as well. Home Depot parking lots where a Latina, a Hispanic woman, gets out of a car and starts to walk into the store and is stopped by ICE agents who want her to show proof of her citizenship. That kind of thing is not what we expect in America, but rather in authoritarian regimes which have no respect for individuals. And they cannot detain Americans for hours or use excessive force against them just because they peacefully protested in support of neighbors and friends. ICE squads descending on homes, bursting through doors to conduct arrest isn't just violence and frightening, but it's unconstitutional. Agents must obtain a judicial warrant signed by a neutral judge, not an administrative warrant in-house, to enter private property. You've seen the videos, we've all seen them, where they're trying to crash down doors by hitting them with axes. Those individuals don't have the authority to do that. And what I'm quoting, the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, is black letter constitutional law. Third, we need accountability. ICE and Border Patrol squads cannot indiscriminately smash in car windows, use tear gas on protesters, and shoot at people without accountability. This is America. This is unacceptable. A uniform code of conduct will rein in aggressive and excessive immigration enforcement, bring about accountability, and hopefully begin the long process of restoring trust. When the immigration agents fail to follow their code of conduct, the Department of Homeland Security must coordinate with state and local officials to conduct a fair and independent investigation. In conclusion, as these negotiations continue to play out, I'll continue to do my part to hold the administration accountable. After I asked Secretary Noem of the Department of Homeland Security to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee all of last year, she refused. Now she says she just might be available in 4 weeks. Find some time in her schedule to finally appear before a congressional committee in a public hearing and answer questions under oath about her mismanagement, tragic mismanagement of this agency. She has a lot of explaining to do. We should hold her to account for it, both Democrats and Republicans. My office will continue to document and report any and all instances of excessive force and abuse at the hands of immigration agents in Chicago and elsewhere. As Federal District Court Judge Berry said in his order this weekend, requiring the release of Liam Ramos from ICE detention, and I want to quote him. Observing human behavior, the judge said, confirms that for some among us, the perfidious lust for unbridled power and the imposition of cruelty in its quest know no bounds and are bereft of human decency, and the rule of law be damned. What a condemnation of what's going on in Minneapolis and Chicago and other states. It may be hard to imagine, but one day the Trump presidency will end. The statute of limitations for these crimes, however, will extend beyond that date. And when the day comes that Donald Trump leaves the White House and his successor moves in to finally bring some order to this chaos, there'll be accountability. The Department of Justice, free from its weaponized quest of retribution against Trump's perceived enemies, will have all the information it needs, video proof, to pursue criminal charges against government officials who actually are violating people's rights. In the meantime, my colleagues and I will continue to shine a light on these abuses, uphold the tenets of basic human decency, and defend the rule of law. I urge my Republican colleagues to swiftly agree to these democratic reforms in DHS funding so that we may actually put a check on the excesses of this administration and this national terror campaign. I yield the floor.